Today I'm going to be going over the comparing bits and pieces review for quiz 3. Number 1 says compare the fractions in each pair, insert the correct sign, greater than, less than, or equal, explain your reasoning. So if I look at A, I notice that they're both negative numbers, and I notice that that 4 can evenly go into 8. So to get from 4 to 8, I need to multiply by 2, so I'm going to write this on my paper so I can show my reasoning. A is negative 2 over 4 and negative 5 over 8. So if I want to rewrite this fraction so that the denominators are the same, I can know that 4 goes into 8 times 2, so I need to multiply the bottom and the top by 2, and that gives me negative 4/8. So now I'm comparing negative 4/8 to negative 5/8. Clearly, okay, so the goal here, since we're working with negatives, is to decide which one, the greater one, will be the one that is closer to 0. So negative 4 is closer to 0 than negative 5. So we're going to say that negative 4 is greater than negative 5. Remember that the alligator eats the bigger number, so it's open to the negative 4/8 or the negative 2/4. Another way to look at this is if you just look at the top number compared to the bottom number, I would realize that 2/4 is 1/2, and it's a negative 1/2. And if I looked at this one, I would realize that 4/8 is half, and that 5/8 is more than 1/2. But since we're talking about negative numbers, it's the opposite of what you think. So this number here, negative 5/8, is more than negative 1/2. So in other words, it's farther away from 0 than 1/2. B, 6/10 versus 20/2. Okay, this one, we're not dealing with negative numbers, so that this one becomes very easy if you just look at it. 6/10 is going to be part of a whole. In other words, you have to have 10/10 to have a whole. So this one is actually going to be less than a whole. Whereas if you look over here, we have an improper fraction, 20 over 2, which clearly is going to be greater than 1, since you only need 2 parts to make 1. So we're going to go ahead and say, without even having to work anything out, that 20/2 is greater than 6/10. Again, the alligator opens, the mouth opens to the larger number. C says 25 over 15 versus 7/12. Okay, again on this one, we can look at these numbers as general numbers. This number here, 7/12, is going to be less than 1 because you need 12/12 in order to be 1. So this is part of a whole. If you look at this number over here, we have 25 over 15, which is an improper fraction, which means that it is greater than 1. So we have 25 over 15 is greater than 1, so we're going to make the greater sign. D, 3/8 versus 3/12. Okay, so we talked about dividing out pieces of a candy bar. And we can divide the first one into 8s. And the second one into 12s. They don't have to be exact, just close. And then we can visually see that 3/8 and 3/12. We can see that clearly 3/8 is greater than 3/12. Again, wouldn't you rather have a candy bar split into 8s and get 3 pieces? Or would you rather have a candy bar split into 12 and get 3 pieces? 2, number 2 says, find 3 numbers between 0.61 and 0.62, or 60/100ths or 60/200ths. All right, so we have our number line. And on our number line, we have 0.61 or 60/100ths and 0.62. And so we're looking for a number that falls between them. So we talked about in class, this is the tenths and this is the hundredths, tenths, hundredths. So if we're looking for a number between them, we're going to have to expand out into our thousandths, which means we're going to break this into 10 pieces. We can break it into 10. That's one way of doing it. And let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what would be on any one of these lines would be a number between 61 hundredths and 62 hundredths. So if we were to label these, this first one would be 0.611, 0.612, 0.613, 0.614, 0.615, 0.616, 0.617, 0.618, 0.619, and 0.62. So for number 2, you could list 0.611, you could list 0.612, 0.613, 0.614, anything all the way up to 0.619. Number 3 says, this picture represents 1/8 of a chewy fruit worm. Draw the rest of the worm. So you're going to try to draw that exact size. And you can label that 1/8 since it tells you it's 1/8. So if we want to go from 1/8 all the way up to whole fruit chewy worm, we're just going to keep drawing them until we reach one whole. Doesn't have to be exact, just as close as you can. And 8/8 is the same as 1. So that would be 1 chewy fruit worm. 4. Arrange from least to greatest. Okay, if we're talking about leasts, clearly our negative numbers are going to be smaller. So I'm going to make my number line here. Here's my 0. I'm going to start out with -5. Negatives are to the left of 1, so here's -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So here's my -5. Then I have -0.43. So -0.43, and I notice over here I have a -0.5. So we're going to have to look at these first 1/10 spots. And we notice I can go ahead and label this one. I'm going to start with -0.5. -1/2 is going to fall exactly between 0 and -1. So this right here will be my -0.5, just 5. Now I got to look at this one and say, oh gosh, that also falls between 0 and 1. But if I look at this as a number from 0 to 100 and I say, okay, this is 43, is 43 going to fall between 0 and 50, or is it going to fall between 50 and 100? Oh, yeah, it's going to fall right here. It's going to fall between 0 and 50. So this is our -0.43. Then we have 2 positive numbers left. All right, so now we have 5 hundredths and 62 thousandths. All right, so now to get to our, we got a decimal 0.5 and we have decimal 0.6. So if you look at the hundredth spot, you can clearly see that 5 hundredths is smaller than 6 hundredths. So the first one we're going to have is 0.050, and right after that we're going to have our 0.062 thousandths. So now if I put these from smallest to greatest, I'm going to start from the left and list them all the way to the right. We have -5. I have -0.5, -43 hundredths, and then I have 5 hundredths, and then I have 62 thousandths. And that's it for number 4. Let me turn my paper over here and we'll move on to number 5. Number 5 Says the ratio of boys to girls in the class is 3 to 1. 3 to 1, and I'm going to write boys, girls. If there are 15 boys in the class, then how many girls are there? So here's my question, right there. I know that we have 3 to 1 ratio. I know I have 15 boys. So I have to ask myself, how are they getting from 3 to 1? Well, we're dividing by 3. So if I divide 15 by 3, 15 divided by 3 is 5. So I would have, my answer would be 5 girls. 6. List all the possible numbers that have an absolute value of 4. Remember, absolute value, all it's asking is how far is it from 0. That's all it means. So if I'm looking for the absolute value of 4, well, to the right, I would have a 4. And to the left, if I went that same distance, it would be negative 4. So the only two numbers that have an absolute value of 4 would be negative 4 and 4. Number 7, you notice on my paper I've changed it on the quiz or the reviews the kids got. It'll already have 8 written in there. So it says, if I ordered 300 boxes of Kleenex for the math teacher, total of 8 teachers, how many boxes will each teacher get? Write your answers as a fraction and as a decimal. All right, so I ordered 300 boxes, and I have 8 teachers. So if I want to take these boxes and divide them evenly among the teachers, I'm going to divide 300 among the 8 teachers. 8 into 3 doesn't go. 8 into 30 goes 3. 8 into 60 goes 7. And I have a remainder of 4 boxes. So each teacher is going to get 37 whole boxes, and then I have 4 extra boxes that 8 teachers need to get. So if I notice that 4 and 8 are related, and I know that if I took these 4 boxes, and here I have my 4 boxes, and if I divide them each in half, I would then have 8 pieces, right? So they would each get 37 whole boxes and 1/2 of these, 1/2 of a box. So now I have 37 and 1/2 boxes. And then it also says that we need to write it as a decimal. And we've been learning some basic decimals. One of the ones I've asked the students to know is that 1/2 is written as 0.5. So 37.5 boxes. And that is the end of the review. I hope this was helpful.